I think it's worth noting that here in downtown New Orleans, a thunderstorm amped up. His first poem went all the way to crescendo and came back down, and is now quiet again. So that's saying something about that excellent poetry. Thank you, Rodrigo. And last but not least, my dear friend, Rodger Kamenetz. Rodger Kamenetz's most recent books of poetry are Yonder, Lavender Ink, and from Lavender Ink in 2018, and Dream Logic from PURH in 2020. He wrote The Jew and the Lotus and the History of Last Night's Dream. He leads 18 colleagues teaching natural dream work. You can find him at www.kamenetz.com. And you can find all of our readers tonight in our chat and check out their work there. So let's welcome Rodger.
Thank you, Jessica. I unmute myself. I'm happy to do that. Thank you to Rodrigo and to Kit, to Jessica, and to everyone, our sponsors. It's been a wonderful, great time putting this together, and so happy to see so many of you and friends and family, and what a great event. So thank you all for coming. So I'm going to read a poem called The Double Room, which is really written after a poem by Baudelaire from Spleen de Paris called La Chambre Double, which essentially could mean a double bedroom. There's a line in the beginning which kind of states the theme for the next few poems. Un chambre qui ressemble à une rêverie, which in English I think is a bedroom that resembles a reverie. Take it from there. I live in a double room. In one room, night is a drug. In the other room, night does not exist. I open my eye in one room, and in the other room, my eye closes and sees all that the first eye does not see. I see through the ocean in one room that all is made of waves. I see through the window in the other room that all is bright appearance. Peeking in through the window from the outside of one room, I see inside my own mind in the other room. I'm asleep in the first room, and darting lights puncture the dark. In the other room, I observe clouds prowl, pounce, slide, and ponder. One darling cloud has the definite shape of a fish, unidentified in the book of fish. The fish book hides in the other room among all books. I live in both rooms. In which am I truly awake? One room calls to the other to say, you are asleep, have always been asleep. When I wake from a dream, I'm never sure that the bed is real. So this next one is called The Revenant. And the song maidens who will do a guest shot in this poem are from the Song dynasty of 10th to 13th century China. The Revenant. If I come to you in a dream, will you still recognize me? I may be the little dog yapping underfoot to test your annoyance, or I may be an ocean without water or salt, so you might swim in me in longing. In this life, I may often be invisible to you, the weight of a shadow on the ground. Feel me with your thoughts. They are small wooden hammers covered in felt. You can hear notes in your sleep. Alone, I'm a minor key. When the kiss of the hammer skips a beat, the stretched string mourns in its pegs. I am just the other side of all music, like a song maiden behind a screen of willows. So this poem, Encounter with the Muse, is from the book Yonder that Bill Lavender was so kind to publish a couple of years ago. In the logic of conditioning, we identify with one race or another, one victim or another, one perpetrator or another. Looking down my pants for a fixed sign of gender, I hear the word wallop. Clouds split in half with lightning down the middle. verses recited by old Chinese poets in the upper loge, so old they are sexless. One poem stroked there became a heavenly writ, daubed on walls and tortoises, gold script on black varnish. In dream logic, we pour like smoke from one body to another. You meet a woman who says, I listen to water. She is old, young, youthful. Her face shimmers. The lightning market crashes. I hear in water the movement of all things I can step into. I lie in the riverbed and she dreams against my mouth. Wallop, pillow, willow, pallor. So this next one, I guess, is the last of the ones about dreams, and it's called The House of Reinvention, which I think is what the dream is, and it's for Tracy Hasfold. There's a quote, I don't know where I got it, probably Wikipedia, but in the language of flowers, coreopsis means to be always cheerful. The coreopsis it looks sort of like a black-eyed Susan, but it's a much more colorful reddish color. There in the house of reinvention, I might become not another, which plagues me, but who I really am. Just down the wrong turn is the house of correction, where my mind has been dwelling for so many sentences. Out in the open courtyard, the children have been singing, the air full of their voices as a meadow of coreopsis. Someday I'll join them among the wildflowers that grow in byways and along edges of fences. The cruel guards laugh at me with their philosophies. Their teeth have been replaced by steel. You said coreopsis, but meant corpses, and the wise have explained the children's song. The guards can never leave the house of correction because they work there, but I can leave quick as a dream. I close my eyes and hear singing again. Meet me at the back door of the house of reinvention. We can slip in easily. In the courtyard, the chorus sings and corpses dance underground. Their crowns brush the roots of the coreopsis. So I think music's going to show up in the next few poems, and the title of this one, the poem's for my mother, and the title is Did You Practice, which probably relates to the sorrows of piano lessons. And of course, the answer was really no, but here's the poem. You have to be willing to make mistakes. My thumb on the middle C wandered over to Venus. Soon I was playing Yellow Smoke, breathed to intoxication. Just beyond toxic, the left hand turned to the bag of the B. One sweet taste in Beethoven can't be 2B flat. I rose up on a sharp that lifted me into an indefinite equation. Solving for X, I hammered out a chord between peace and Germany. White doves left over from the armistice squawked their way through turbulent chords that rose from the well of the piano. Then we whirled around in triplets till the organic chemistry of the moment came to a rest, suspended high overhead in silence, like a god who decided, just be. Just be, that's all, then C, then D, then C. I heard all those notes. Then they became me. Then they flew on beyond me. So, in addition to being wonderful poets, as you all witnessed, both Kit and Rodrigo are also tremendous musicians. This particular poem, Chords and Discords, is for Rodrigo, who introduced me to the 16th century keyboard composer Claudio Marullo, who's mentioned here. The song Dynasty, I have to add, is when foot binding sadly became widespread. That comes up a little bit too. The harpsichord as a murder weapon has not yet appeared in the mystery. Instead, it floats like an orange boat under a storm of fingers. takes a beating, but always calms to even sound. It is a weather partly cloudy, but with no idea of an ending. Notes fall on the skull like spring rain on blossoms. There's no crying at night in a harpsichord. It plucks its notes like pulling flowers up by the roots. Certain pieces sound better unhammered. The harpsichord gathers clouds of notes into a storm. I feel slightly seasick listening to Marullo. Oh, Bach, I am drowning. When will you come back? I await your regular waves as they return upside down. A harpsichord makes a coffin for the seasick. To fit inside it, I would have to break my back, the way song mothers broke their daughters' arches. I hear the maidens alone at night, sobbing for the sake of their beautiful shoes. So this poem is called The For Life, and this and the previous poem are both in the newer book, Dream Logic. The For Life. Think of all the days you spent before conception. Time was not of the essence, at least not yours. Non-existence had its own fruit, gray apples on gray trees. The fruit tasted of air, and you had no tongue. You had not yet gathered a self. You were an anonymous source. Some people heard you faintly in their pulses. The stars did not come out at night. There were no thoughts, just dots of yellow in the gray. It is what it is was not yet. With so much future, you had nowhere to be, but fingertips called you. The longing to touch holds the pain of an addiction. The symptoms of you were scattered widely, motes in the sun, puny ants in the leaves. The notes of a sympathy waited to bring a chord. As soon as you arrived, nothing would stop being. In would rush a world of color. The mother touches your tender skin and smells your sweetness and knows she is real. So I guess my mother wants to be in this reading because this poem, Dragonfly, is for her. Animals eat here, some so tiny the world is but a stone, hunger a pinpoint, they drink a dew. The garden throbs with them. Iridium, bits of rainbow, needle greens, penetrating blues. Who named them darning needles, nightmare horses, names born of fear? Their veined wings, a double set, beat back the air of occasion, become occasion. They keep distance from nectar. They snatch mosquitoes, tear their wings in the air, their head all eyes. How could an insect, a dog, have life and not you? They snatch elegy mid-flight, hover with glints of loss. Unlike dragonflies, memory stings. The adventure of who you were lives in me. And when I go, who will carry this envelope? Who read the letter inside? So these last poems share a word, so you can listen for it if you like, and there'll be a quiz afterwards. So the first poem, I was talking to Moira about this. It's called the Jerry Lewis Story. For some reason, she thought there were many people who didn't know who Jerry Lewis was, or I don't know. I was very young when Jerry Lewis was really a big deal, but made a big impression on me. So here it is, the Jerry Lewis story. Being Jerry Lewis, I would have no trouble cutting Paris with a fork. Unbelief would disappear and error would be no more. I would fire once and Dean Martin would fall through the sky. He must have been hiding in the sky. Of all the movies we ever made, the ones where I kissed him stand up. The side of a fork is harder than the edge of a knife, yet the Eiffel Tower split like the bones of a fish. Did you ever see the movie where I became mayor of Paris? The French loved me so much they pinned medals on my chest right at the nipple. Yes, that hurt, and I cried all the time, but everyone kept laughing. That hurt more, and they laughed harder, a loop of tears and laughter. That's the movie I should have made after Dean left. Now that the tears have dried, it all looks different, a still photograph with a matte finish. You bring the dust and I'll bring the ashes. I see belief disappearing, so unbelief must be next, or is that an error? I live in my own thoughts, my own dreams. I have heard the mermaids singing each to each in a sawdust barroom in Paris. Alas, no one gives you medals for that, but it still hurts. Alas, I am not Jerry Lewis anymore. I am the whisper of Jerry Lewis. So this poem actually began in Paris also with my friend Laura Mullen, a poet for whom it's dedicated. I'm sure many of you know her. And we had a kind of interesting conversation about editing poems. An eloquent wind rearranged the silverware, forks tip to top, spoons top to tip. The rattle of the drawer shook music from the silver. Congratulations. I hurried towards the sound. The wind worried me past all comfort. Where were the knives? Allegations of a stronger wind pushed wicker off the deck. The realism of the wind struck me. I became convinced by a branch flying into my mouth, by a rose scratched on my cheek, by the green blood of a broken dahlia. I sought shelter under my mind. I lay down in congratulations, in realism. The words assembled themselves top to tip to top. The letters composed themselves in their galleys. The storm rewrote the poem, scratching out lines, crossing them, moving words up and down with arrows. I saw vectors flash. I felt knives point at me. The wind moved counter the clock, stopped. If this house stands, it will be a living room. Living roomer, said the dying wind, dying down. So this is the last one I'll read. It's called Theory of Gravity. There's as much mystery in a fork falling under the table as in how I got to be here to drop it. How a being wholly composed of slowed down light could become so opaque. I fetched the dropped fork, but how my fingers knew what they touched, what process of electricity in a cell, what snap of spark across a synapse, which long-necked neurons woke and thrilled while others slept, would be a bowed head in a day-long prayer where every day is holy, every moment epiphany. Fork returned to fingers, lifted in the air, the food that fed the nerve, the thoughtless thought that acted without me to retrieve the fork. What intention is or isn't, how Aristotle said the fork fell because of love, how sometimes I think he was right. Thank you. I want to thank everyone involved, Kit and Rodrigo. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Fela. I want to thank our sponsors, New Orleans Writers Workshops, Lavender Ink, Roof Books, Fence. Please visit them all. And if you can, please donate to Unity to help the homeless. All the folks who have read and all the links of our sponsors are on the chat. Thank you again. I'm going to give it back to Jessica.
Wow, what a series of readings. I think Rodger's poetry about his mother always makes me flat out for a minute. So just taking a deep breath here. I think Rodger covered it. Thank you for all your time and for your attention. If anybody has any questions, we do have a few minutes. You can put your questions in the chat. I don't know if it was that kind of night. It was, I think, a very reflective night and also full of so much amazing poetry. So we'll give it a minute if anybody has any questions. I hear a lot of beautiful work. Thanks for the reading. I saw a lot of folks talking about the different types of poetry we heard tonight, philosophical poetry, activist poetry, turning it up because we couldn't hear it over the thunderstorm, that I think personally Rodrigo's work brought up for us. And then ending with Rodger, which is always a time for reflection.